The signal came on a Tuesday morning. Commander Sarah Chen was drinking her third cup of coffee when every screen in the Earth Defense Command Center turned to static. She set down her mug and watched as the static cleared to reveal something that would change human history forever. A face appeared on the screen. It was not a human face. The creature had gray skin that looked like old leather. Its eyes were large and black, without any white parts. It had no nose, just two small holes in the middle of its face. When it spoke, its thin lips barely moved, but the voice that came through was deep and cold. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth. System designation, Sol. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. Around her, every officer in the command center had stopped moving. They stared at the screens with wide eyes and open mouths. "I am High Arbiter Kethovoran of the Vethrani Dominion. Your species has been observed. Your territory has been assessed. Your fate has been decided." The alien paused. Behind him, Sarah could see what looked like a bridge of a ship. Other aliens moved in the background, working at strange machines. "The Vethrani Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 40,000 of your years. We have brought order to 800 species across 10,000 worlds. We do not ask for submission. We inform you of what will happen." Sarah's hands were shaking. She pressed a button on her console to make sure this transmission was being recorded and sent to every government on Earth. "You have committed 3 crimes against the Dominion," the alien continued. "First, you have expanded beyond your birth world without permission. Second, you have failed to register with the Galactic Census. Third, you have practiced willful independence in Dominion space." The alien's black eyes seemed to look directly at Sarah. She knew that was impossible. He was probably looking at a camera, but it felt like he was staring into her soul. "You have 72 standard rotations to surrender completely. You will give up all weapons. You will give up all ships. You will give up your governments. You will accept Dominion rule. If you do not surrender, you will be destroyed. This is not a threat. This is a fact." The transmission ended. The screens returned to normal. For 5 seconds, nobody in the command center said a word. Then everyone started talking at once. Sarah grabbed her phone and called the president of the United Earth Council. The line was busy. She tried the Secretary of Defense, also busy. She tried every important number she had, all busy. The whole world had seen the same message. Within 1 hour, Sarah had the information she needed. Earth's deep space sensors had detected the alien fleet. It had appeared at the edge of the solar system, near the orbit of Neptune. The sensors counted the ships. There were more than 10,000 of them. Sarah looked at the number on her screen and felt sick. Humanity's entire fleet was less than 400 ships. Most of those ships were small patrol vessels or cargo ships with guns attached. The alien ships were huge. Some of them were bigger than cities. The mathematics were simple. If humanity fought, humanity would die. News of the transmission spread across Earth and all the human colonies in minutes. On Mars, people stopped working and gathered around screens. On the Moon, families held each other and cried. On Titan, the small mining colony sent a message asking what they should do. Nobody had an answer. The United Earth Council called an emergency meeting. Presidents, prime ministers, and leaders from every nation came together in Geneva. They argued for hours about what to do. Some said they should surrender. What choice did they have? Fighting was suicide. At least if they surrendered, people would survive. They would be slaves, but they would be alive. Others said they should fight anyway. Better to die free than live as slaves. Better to show the universe that humans would not bow to anyone. Others said they should try to negotiate. Maybe they could make a deal. Maybe the aliens would accept some kind of compromise. While the leaders argued, something strange started happening across human space. It began on Earth, in the city of Lagos, Nigeria. A young woman named Adaze was watching the news with her family when she started to laugh. Her mother looked at her like she was crazy. "What is funny?" her mother asked. "This is the end of the world." Adais shook her head. "No, Mama. Look at him. Look at that alien. He looks like my old boss at the factory, the one who used to yell at everyone. Remember him?" Her mother looked at the screen where they were replaying the alien's message. She squinted. Then she smiled. Then she laughed too. "You are right. He has the same angry face, like he is always smelling something bad." Within hours, that joke had spread across the internet. Someone made a picture of the alien wearing a business suit and holding a coffee mug that said, "Universe's best boss." Someone else added subtitles to his message that made him sound like an angry customer complaining about bad service. The memes spread like fire. On Mars, a group of engineers made a video where they pretended to be the aliens. They wore gray paint on their faces and spoke in serious voices about how humans were too loud and played their music too much. The video got 1 billion views in one day. On Earth, a punk rock band in Berlin wrote a song called 72 Rotations. The lyrics were about how the aliens could take their ultimatum and put it somewhere uncomfortable. The song hit #1 in 30 countries. People started making jokes about the aliens' appearance, their serious attitude, their demands. Someone pointed out that the aliens had given humanity 72 rotations instead of hours or days. Nobody knew exactly how long a rotation was. Someone else made a joke that maybe a rotation was really long, and they actually had thousands of years to surrender. The laughter spread. High Arbiter Keth Voran watched the human communications with growing confusion. In his 400 years of service to the Dominion, he had delivered this same message to dozens of species. The reactions were always the same: fear, panic, begging, surrender. The humans were not doing any of those things. "What are they doing?" he asked his communications officer. The officer, a young Vethrani named Siltara, studied the human transmissions. "They appear to be mocking you, High Arbiter." "Mocking me?" "Yes. They are creating comedic content about your appearance and your message. They are sharing it widely across their communication networks." Keth Voran did not understand. "Are they not afraid?" "It is difficult to determine. Their behavior does not match any known response pattern." The High Arbiter turned to his chief strategist, an old Vethrani named Dornveth, who had helped conquer over 50 species. "What do you make of this?" Dornveth studied the human data with his 3 tactical screens. "They are obviously in denial. This is sometimes seen in primitive species. They cannot accept reality, so they pretend it is not happening. When our fleet approaches, they will panic and surrender like all the others." Keth Voran nodded. That made sense. Humans were young and foolish. They would learn. But on Earth, something else was happening. The United Earth Council was still arguing when a woman named Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood up and asked to speak. She was a psychologist who studied human behavior during crisis situations. "You are all asking the wrong question," she said. "You are asking whether we should fight or surrender. But look at the people." She pointed to the screen showing news from around the world. In every city, people were laughing. They were making jokes. They were going to work, going to school, living their lives. Some were crying, yes. Some were scared. But many of them were facing the end of the world with a smile. "The people have already decided," Dr. Tanaka said. "They are not going to bow to some alien who looks like their angry boss. They are not going to surrender their freedom because a stranger told them to. They would rather laugh in the face of death than live on their knees." The room was quiet. The president of the United Earth Council, a man named James Okonkwo, looked at the screens. He watched a video of children in Japan making fun of the aliens. He watched a grandmother in Brazil teaching her grandchildren a rude gesture to show the invaders. He watched a factory worker in India going back to his job with a sign that said, "Aliens go home." Something stirred in his chest, something that felt like pride. "If we surrender," he said slowly, "what happens to that? What happens to the laughter? What happens to the people who refuse to be afraid? Nobody answered. They will break us, he continued, not with weapons, with shame, with obedience. They will teach our children that humans are weak, that we gave up without a fight. Is that the lesson we want to leave behind? The British Prime Minister spoke up. But if we fight, we will lose. Everyone will die. President Okonkwo nodded. Maybe, probably. But at least we will die as ourselves. At least the universe will know that when humans faced extinction, we did not beg. We fought, we laughed, we stayed human until the very end. The vote was not unanimous. Some leaders still wanted to surrender, but the majority made their decision. Humanity would not kneel. The official response was broadcast to the alien fleet the next day. President Okonkwo stood at a podium with the flags of every Earth nation behind him. He looked into the camera with steady eyes. "High Arbiter Kethvoran," he began, "we have received your message. We have discussed it among ourselves. We have made our decision." He paused. "Humanity respectfully declines your offer." In the command room of the Vethrani flagship, Kethvoran leaned forward. This was unexpected. "We will not surrender our weapons," the human continued. "We will not surrender our ships. We will not surrender our freedom. We were born free, and we will die free." The president smiled. It was a calm smile, the smile of a man who has made peace with his choice. "You say you have conquered 800 species. That is very impressive. But you have never met humans before. We are not like the others. We are stubborn. We are proud. We are sometimes foolish, but we do not give up. Ever." President Okonkwo leaned closer to the camera. "You want to take our world? Come and try. But know this, for every ship you have, we have 1,000 people ready to fight. For every weapon you carry, we have 1,000,000 reasons to resist. We may not win, but we will make you pay for every inch of our space. We will make you bleed for every human life you take. And when you finally stand on our ashes, you will remember us. You will remember the species that laughed at your ultimatum and told you to go to hell." The president stepped back. 72 rotations. Keep them. We don't need that long to prepare. We were born ready." The transmission ended. Across human space, people cheered. They shouted. They hugged each other. They were probably going to die, and they knew it. But they were going to die standing up. High Arbiter Kethvoran sat in his command chair for a long time after the transmission ended. His officers waited for orders, but he said nothing. Finally, his communications officer spoke. "High Arbiter, what are your orders?" Kethvoran stared at the image of the human leader that was frozen on his screen. The man was smiling. He was about to die, and he was smiling. "These humans," Kethvoran said slowly, "they are insane." "Yes, High Arbiter. What are your orders?" Kethvoran thought about the 800 species he had conquered. He thought about how they had all begged and cried and promised to obey. He thought about how easy it had always been. He looked at the humans' smile. For the first time in 400 years, the High Arbiter felt something he did not recognize. It was not fear exactly. It was more like uncertainty. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "We will see how long they laugh when our ships are in their skies." But as his fleet began to move toward the inner solar system, Kethvoran could not shake a strange feeling. The feeling that something was different this time. That these humans, with their jokes and their defiance and their foolish courage, were not going to be like the others. He pushed the feeling aside. It was impossible. They were just another primitive species. They would fall like all the others. But deep in his ancient heart, a small voice whispered a question he could not answer. What if they don't? On Earth, the preparations began. Scientists worked on new weapons, engineers modified ships, soldiers trained day and night, civilians learned how to fight, Factories produced supplies at speeds never seen before, and everywhere, in every city and colony and station, humans looked up at the stars and smiled, not because they thought they would win, but because they refused to be afraid. They had made their choice. They had given their answer, and that answer was laughter. The countdown began the moment humanity sent its answer. Admiral Chen Wei-Lin stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and watched the timer on her screen. 68 hours remained, less than 3 days before 10,000 alien warships reached Earth. She was 62 years old. She had spent her entire adult life in the United Earth Navy. She had fought pirates near Jupiter. She had stopped a terrorist attack on Mars. She had commanded ships in peacetime and in crisis. But nothing had prepared her for this. "Admiral," her first officer said, "the fleet is assembled. 387 ships, awaiting your orders." Chen looked at the display showing her fleet. Most of the ships were small, patrol boats, converted cargo vessels. A few destroyers, a handful of cruisers. Only 12 ships in the entire fleet were proper warships, built for combat. Against 10,000 alien vessels, it was laughable. But that was the point, wasn't it? Humanity had chosen to laugh. "Send all captains my briefing packet," Chen ordered. "We meet in 6 hours to discuss strategy. Until then, everyone rests. Eat, sleep, call your families. We have a long few days ahead." Her officers nodded and went to work. Chen walked to the window of her bridge and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet was coming, a fleet that had conquered 800 species, a fleet that had never lost. Chen smiled. She had never lost either. On Earth, in a small office at the University of Nairobi, Dr. Yusuf Okonkwo was not sleeping. He had not slept in 2 days. His desk was covered with papers and data pads, all showing the same thing: alien communications. Yusuf was a xenolinguist. He had spent 20 years studying the possibility of alien languages. People had called him crazy. They said aliens did not exist. Now, suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to him. The alien transmission had included something besides the warning. Hidden in the signal was a massive database of information: languages, history, cultural data. The aliens had sent it as a demonstration of their power. They wanted humans to understand just how vast the Dominion was, but Yusuf saw something they had not intended to share. "You are still awake." He looked up. His daughter, Amara, stood in the doorway with a cup of tea. She was a medical student, but she had come home when the aliens arrived. She wanted to be with her family at the end. "I cannot sleep," Yusuf said. "There is too much to learn." Amara walked in and set the tea on his desk. "What have you found?" Yusuf rubbed his tired eyes. "The Dominion has conquered 800 species, but I have been reading their histories. Do you know what I noticed?" "What?" "Every single species surrendered." Yusuf pointed to his screen. "Every one. Some fought for a few days, some negotiated, but in the end, they all gave up. The Dominion has never faced a species that refused to surrender, never in 40,000 years. Amara sat down across from him. "So what does that mean?" "It means their entire system is built on the assumption that conquered species will obey. Their military, their government, their economy, all of it depends on submission." Yusuf leaned forward. "They do not know how to handle a species that would rather die than kneel. We are something they have never seen before. Is that good or bad?" Yusuf thought about it. "I do not know, but it means they cannot predict us. And in a war, unpredictability is a weapon." On Titan, the smallest and coldest of humanity's colonies, a young woman named Maya Santos was learning how to shoot. She was 20 years old. She had come to Titan 2 years ago to work in the ice mines. It was hard work, but it paid well. She had planned to save money for 5 years, then go back to Earth and start a business. Maybe a restaurant. She made good food. Now there might not be an Earth to go back to. "Hold the rifle steady," the instructor said. He was an old man named Sergeant Morrison, who had fought in the European water wars 30 years ago. "Breathe in. Breathe out. Squeeze the trigger on the exhale." Maya did what he said. The rifle kicked against her shoulder, and a hole appeared in the target 20 meters away. It was not a perfect shot, but it was close. "Good," Morrison said. "Again." There were 50 people in Maya's training group. Miners, engineers, cooks, teachers. None of them were soldiers. But when the colony announced it was forming a militia, every single person had volunteered. Maya's grandmother had called her the night before. Rosa Santos was 87 years old and lived in São Paulo. She had survived the Brazilian collapse when she was young, when the water dried up and the cities burned. "Are you scared?" Rosa had asked. "Yes, Grandma, very scared." "Good. Fear is a compass. It shows you what matters enough to fight for. If you were not scared, I would be worried." "What if we lose? What if everyone dies?" Rosa had laughed. It was a warm sound, even through the video screen. "My little Maya, everyone dies someday. The question is not whether you will die. The question is how you will live. Will you live as a coward, or will you live as someone who fought for what she loved?" Maya thought about that as she raised her rifle again. She thought about her family, her friends, the little colony on Titan where she had learned to love the stars. All of it was worth fighting for. She squeezed the trigger. Back on the Defiance, Admiral Chen gathered her captains for the strategy meeting. 300 faces looked at her from screens around the briefing room. Some were young, some were old. All of them were scared, though they tried to hide it. "I am not going to lie to you," Chen began. "If we fight the Vethrani fleet directly, we will lose. They have more ships, bigger ships, better weapons. In a straight battle, they will destroy us in hours." She saw some of the captains lower their eyes. Others clenched their jaws. One young woman looked like she might cry. "So we are not going to fight a straight battle." The captains looked up again. "I have studied the Dominion's war records. They were kind enough to send us their history. And I have noticed something interesting." Chen pressed a button, and images appeared on every screen. "Every species they conquered fought the same way. They formed defensive lines. They tried to protect their homeworlds. They fought by the rules." She leaned forward. "We are not going to fight by the rules. We are going to fight like humans." Captain Jorge Mendez, commander of the cruiser Havana, spoke up. "What does that mean, Admiral?" "It means we will be unpredictable. We will be chaotic. We will fight dirty." Chen smiled. "The Vethrani expect us to form a defensive line around Earth and wait for them. Instead, we are going to spread out, hide in asteroids, use civilian ships as decoys, attack from every direction at once. We will make them chase shadows." "But Admiral," another captain said, "even if we confuse them, we cannot destroy their fleet. We do not have the firepower." "You are right. We cannot win this war with firepower, but we can win it with cost." Chen's eyes were hard. "Every ship we destroy costs them resources. Every soldier we kill costs them manpower. Every day we survive costs them time. The Dominion is not fighting just us. They have a whole galaxy to control. If we make this war expensive enough, they may decide we are not worth the trouble." Captain Yuki Sato, commander of the destroyer Rising Sun, raised her hand. "And if they decide to just destroy Earth from orbit, they could kill everyone without losing a single ship." Chen nodded. "That is a risk, but I do not think they will do it. The Dominion does not want dead planets. They want slaves. They want resources. They want to add us to their empire. A burnt Earth gives them nothing." "You are gambling with 8 billion lives," Sato said. "Yes, I am." Chen met the captain's eyes without flinching. But the alternative is certain slavery. I would rather gamble on freedom than accept chains. The room was quiet. Then, slowly, Captain Mendez nodded. Tell us the plan, Admiral. Chen smiled. With pleasure. On the Vethrani flagship, High Arbiter Keth Voran was receiving his own briefings. His strategist, Dornveth, had analyzed all the information they had gathered about humanity. They are a young species, Dornveth reported. They have only been in space for about 300 of their years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their ships are slow. Their military is small and poorly organized. Then victory should be simple, Keth Voran said. It should be, High Arbiter, but there are some unusual factors. Such as? Dornveth pulled up a display showing human history. These creatures have a disturbing tendency toward irrational behavior. In their past, they have often chosen to fight when surrender was clearly the logical option. They have a concept they call dying for a cause that seems to override their survival instinct. Keth Voran frowned. All species have some individuals who resist. They are always a minority. Yes, High Arbiter, but among humans, this resistance appears to be... Dornveth paused, searching for the right word. Cultural. They tell stories about resistance. They celebrate those who fight against impossible odds. They consider surrender to be shameful. Primitive nonsense. When they see our fleet, they will reconsider. Perhaps. But I recommend caution. These humans may not behave as expected. Keth Voran waved his hand dismissively. I have conquered 53 species, Dornveth. I have seen every kind of resistance. Brave words always become begging when the killing starts. Humans will be no different. On Earth, the preparations continued at impossible speed. Factories that had been building cars now built missiles. Shipyards that had been making cargo vessels now made weapons platforms. Every resource on the planet was directed toward one goal: survival. But it was not just about weapons. All across Earth and the colonies, people were preparing in other ways. Teachers taught their students about history, about all the times humans had faced impossible odds and survived, about Thermopylae and Stalingrad and the Lunar Rebellion, about how courage could triumph over power. Artists painted murals on building walls, images of humans standing tall against the stars, images of families holding hands, images of raised fists and defiant smiles. Musicians wrote songs about home and love and the refusal to give up. The songs played on every radio station, in every colony, on every ship. Religious leaders of every faith held services. They prayed for strength. They prayed for wisdom. They prayed for peace. But mostly they prayed for courage. And everywhere, people laughed. They told jokes about the aliens. They made fun of their own fear. They found humor in the darkness because that was what humans did. When the world ended, humans made jokes about it. Dr. Okonkwo finally slept for a few hours, then woke up with a new idea. He sent a message to the military command with his findings about the Dominion structure. He explained that the Empire was not as unified as it appeared. The conquered species were not loyal. They obeyed because they had no choice. If we can survive long enough, his message said, we might inspire others. We might show them that resistance is possible. The Dominion's greatest weakness is that they rule through fear. If we show the galaxy that fear can be overcome, everything changes. Admiral Chen read the message and smiled. She forwarded it to every captain in her fleet. On Titan, Maya Santos finished her training and was assigned to a boarding team. Her job would be to attack alien ships from the inside, to fight hand-to-hand in the corridors of enemy vessels. It was almost certainly a suicide mission. She called her grandmother to say goodbye. I am proud of you, Rosa said. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. My little warrior, I am scared, Grandma. Of course you are. Only fools are not scared. But you are not running away. That is what matters. I love you. I love you too. Now go show those aliens what humans are made of. The timer continued to count down. 60 hours, 50, 40. The alien fleet grew closer. Human ships moved into position. Soldiers checked their weapons. Families held each other tight. High Arbiter Keth Varan watched the humans through his long-range sensors. He saw their tiny fleet spreading out through the solar system. He saw their defensive platforms around Earth. He saw their pathetic preparations. He felt almost sorry for them. They were trying so hard. They really believed they could resist. Humans, he said to himself, so brave, so foolish, so doomed. But somewhere in the back of his mind, Dornveth's words echoed. These humans may not behave as expected. He pushed the thought away. It did not matter how they behaved. The result would be the same. The Dominion always won. Always. The countdown reached 24 hours. 1 day remained before the battle would begin. 1 day before the fate of humanity would be decided. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Chen gathered her senior officers. Tomorrow, she said, we fight for everything, for our planet, our people, our future. Some of us will die. Maybe all of us will die. But whatever happens, we will not be forgotten. We will show the universe what humans are made of. She raised her glass of tea. Her officers raised theirs. To humanity, Chen said. May we laugh in the face of death. To humanity, they answered. And somewhere in the stars, 10,000 alien ships moved closer, carrying the weight of an empire that had never known defeat. They were about to learn. The first shot was fired at 600 Earth Standard Time on a Thursday morning. High Arbiter Keth Voran had expected to see a defensive line around Earth. He had expected the humans to gather their pathetic fleet and make one desperate stand. That was what every species did. That was the logical choice. Instead, his sensors showed chaos. Human ships were everywhere. They hid behind asteroids. They drifted among space debris. They scattered across millions of kilometers of empty space. There was no line. There was no formation. There was just mess. What are they doing? Keth Voran demanded. Dornveth studied the tactical display with growing confusion. I do not understand, High Arbiter. This makes no strategic sense. They have spread their forces so thin that they cannot possibly mount an effective defense. Then we will simply destroy them one by one. Order the fleet to advance. The Vethrani armada moved forward like a great wave. 10,000 ships in perfect formation, each one knowing exactly where to go and what to do. They had practiced this 1,000 times. Conquering species was routine for them. The first Vethrani ship to die was a scout vessel called the Eternal Vigilance. It was scanning an asteroid field when the asteroid it was scanning suddenly exploded. Inside the asteroid, human engineers had hidden a massive bomb. The scout never saw it coming. We have lost the Eternal Vigilance, a sensor officer reported. Keth Voran frowned. How? Before anyone could answer, 3 more ships reported damage. Missiles had come from nowhere, not from human ships, from empty space. The humans had hidden weapons everywhere, on asteroids, on debris, on abandoned satellites. High Arbiter, Dornveth said slowly, I believe the humans have turned the entire solar system into a trap. The battle became a nightmare. Admiral Chen watched from the Defiance as her plan unfolded. Her ships were not trying to fight the alien fleet directly. They were harassing it, annoying it, making it bleed from 1,000 small cuts. A human destroyer would appear from behind a moon, fire all its missiles, then disappear before the aliens could respond. A group of fighters would attack a supply ship, damage its engines, then scatter. Mining ships loaded with explosives would drift into the alien formation, looking like debris, then detonate. The aliens had better weapons, better shields, better ships. but they were used to fighting enemies who stood still and waited to die. They were not used to fighting ghosts. "Admiral," her first officer reported, "enemy fleet has broken formation. They are sending hunting groups to chase our raiders." Chen smiled. "Perfect. That is exactly what we wanted. Order all ships to fall back. Lead them deeper into the asteroid belt." The alien hunting groups chased the human ships into the belt and found more traps, more bombs, more ambushes. Ships that looked disabled suddenly came alive and attacked. Asteroids that looked empty were full of missiles. One Vethrani captain, frustrated by the constant attacks, ordered his ship to simply blast through an asteroid field. His weapons were powerful enough to destroy the rocks, but hidden inside one of those rocks was a human team with a nuclear warhead. They waited until the alien ship was directly overhead, then detonated. The ship survived, but its shields were down. Its weapons were damaged, and before it could recover, 3 human destroyers appeared and finished it off. On the bridge of his flagship, Kethovaran watched his casualty reports climb. He had expected to lose perhaps a dozen ships conquering humanity. He had already lost over 100, and the battle had barely begun. "This is not possible," he said. "They are insects. They should not be able to hurt us like this." "High Arbiter," his communications officer said, "we are receiving transmissions from the human fleet." "Put it on screen." Admiral Chen appeared on the display. She was smiling. Behind her, Kethovaran could see her bridge crew working calmly at their stations. "Hi, Arbiter," she said. "I hope you are enjoying your visit to our solar system. I apologize for the mess. We were not expecting guests." Kethovaran's eyes narrowed. "You are brave to show your face, human. Your tricks will not save you. We will find your ships and destroy them. Maybe. But while you are chasing us, you are not conquering Earth, and every day you spend here costs you ships you cannot easily replace." Chen leaned forward. "How many species are watching this war, High Arbiter? How many of your conquered peoples are seeing that the great Vethrani can be hurt?" Kethovaran cut the transmission. His hands were shaking, not with fear, with rage. "Destroy them!" he ordered. "Destroy them all! Now!" The battle intensified. The Vethrani stopped trying to chase individual ships and began a systematic sweep of the solar system. They moved from planet to planet, moon to moon, destroying everything that could hide human forces. But the humans did not stop fighting. Maya Santos was in a boarding pod when the order came. Her team of 12 soldiers was about to attempt something that had never been done before in the history of the Dominion. They were going to board an enemy warship. The Vethrani did not design their ships for close combat. Why would they? No species had ever tried to board them. Combat was supposed to happen at long range, with plasma lances and missiles. The idea of enemies actually entering your ship was considered primitive, barbaric. Maya's pod slammed into the hull of a Vethrani cruiser. The impact threw her against her harness, but she barely noticed. Adrenaline was pumping through her body. Fear and excitement mixed together until she could not tell them apart. "Breaching!" the squad leader yelled. Cutting torches burned through the alien hull. The metal glowed red, then white, then gave way. Air rushed out. Maya did not care. She was wearing a suit. She pushed through the hole into the alien ship. The corridor was tall and strange. The lighting was wrong, too blue. The air smelled like chemicals, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the 3 alien soldiers standing at the end of the corridor, staring at her with obvious shock. They had never seen an enemy inside their ship before. Maya raised her rifle and fired. The Vethrani were tall, nearly 3 meters. They moved slowly and deliberately, like they had all the time in the world. Their weapons were powerful but designed for long-range combat. Up close, they were awkward. Maya was small and fast. She had grown up playing sports in the low gravity of Titan. She could move in ways the aliens could not predict. She dodged their shots. rolled under their clumsy attacks, and put bullets in the gaps of their armor. 3 aliens dead. More coming. "Move!" she yelled to her team. "We need to reach the bridge!" They fought through the ship corridor by corridor. The aliens were not used to this kind of fighting. They called for reinforcements, but their reinforcements were slow to arrive. They tried to seal bulkheads, but the humans had brought cutting tools. They tried to vent atmosphere, but the humans were in sealed suits. Maya lost 2 teammates in the first 5 minutes, then 2 more. By the time they reached the bridge, only 6 of them were left. The bridge doors were sealed. Maya placed a shaped charge and stepped back. The explosion blew the doors open. She went through firing. The alien commander stood in the center of the room. He was ancient. Maya could tell by the patterns on his skin. He had probably commanded this ship for centuries. He had probably conquered dozens of worlds. He looked at Maya with something like disbelief. "Impossible," he said. His translator made his voice sound calm, but there was something underneath. Fear? Confusion? "You cannot be here. This has never happened." Maya's team spread out, weapons aimed at the bridge crew. They were outnumbered, but the aliens were unarmed. Bridge crew did not need weapons. Why would they? "Surrender your ship," Maya said. "Order your crew to stand down." The commander drew himself up to his full height. He towered over her. "I am Commander Velkath of the Vethrani Dominion. I have served for 600 years. I have never surrendered." "I will not surrender to an insect. Then your crew dies with you. You would kill us all? You would die yourself?" Maya thought about her grandmother, about Titan, about the home she might never see again. She thought about how scared she was and how the fear did not matter. "Yes," she said simply. "If that is what it takes." Velkath stared at her. In 600 years of life, he had never encountered a being like this. A creature so small and fragile, facing certain death and completely unafraid. No, not unafraid. She was terrified. He could see it in her eyes, but she refused to let the fear control her. "You are insane," he said. "Maybe, but I am still here, and your ship is still mine." Long seconds passed. The bridge was silent except for the hum of machinery. Then slowly, Velkath lowered his head. "I surrender." Word of the captured ship spread through both fleets. The humans had done the impossible. They had boarded and captured a Vethrani warship. It was a cruiser, one of 10,000, but it was a victory. A real victory. More boarding teams launched. Not all of them succeeded. Some were destroyed before they reached their targets. Some breached the hull but were overwhelmed by defenders. But some succeeded. By the end of the first day, humans had captured or destroyed 15 Vethrani ships through boarding actions alone. High Arbiter Keth Voran could not believe the reports. "They are climbing onto our ships like vermin," he said to Dornveth. "They are fighting hand to hand, like animals." "The humans appear to have no concept of proper warfare," Dornveth replied. "They fight with whatever methods work, regardless of tradition or honor. It is barbaric. It is effective." Keth Voran turned on his strategist. "Are you defending them?" "No, High Arbiter. I am analyzing them. These humans, they do not think like other species. They do not calculate odds and accept defeat when the mathematics are against them. They simply refuse to lose, even when losing is the only logical outcome. They will still lose. We have 10,000 ships. They have captured 15. Yes, High Arbiter. But consider this. In the first day of battle, we have lost more ships than we have lost in the past century of conquests. Combined. Word of this will spread to the subject races. They will see that the Dominion can be hurt." Keth Voran felt cold. "Are you suggesting that our own subjects might rebel?" "I am suggesting that the humans are fighting more than one war. They are fighting us with weapons. but they are also fighting our image of invincibility, and that second war is the more dangerous one. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold on their screens. They saw human ships destroyed. They saw soldiers die. They mourned every loss, but they also saw victories, small ones, impossible ones. They saw a species that had never known defeat begin to bleed, and they kept laughing. A comedian went on television and joked about how the aliens were probably regretting their decision to invade. A musician released a song about making the Empire pay. Children drew pictures of human ships destroying alien monsters. The laughter was not joy, it was defiance. It was a way of saying, "You can kill us, but you cannot break us." Admiral Chen studied her tactical display as the first day of battle ended. She had lost 63 ships, over 5,000 people. The math was not good. At this rate, her fleet would be gone in less than a week. But the aliens had lost 112 ships, and more importantly, they had lost something they could not measure: their confidence. "What is the enemy doing?" she asked. "They have pulled back to regroup, Admiral. They seem uncertain how to proceed." Chen nodded. "Good. Let them be uncertain. Let them be confused. Let them be afraid." She looked out at the stars, at the distant lights of the alien fleet. "We cannot win this war," she said quietly. "Not really. But we can make them wonder if winning is worth the cost. We can make them doubt. And sometimes, doubt is enough." Maya Santos sat in a corridor of the captured alien ship, leaning against a wall. Her suit was damaged. Her ribs were probably cracked. She had lost 8 friends in the last few hours. But she was alive, and the ship was theirs. One of her surviving teammates sat down next to her. His name was Jackson, a big man from Australia who had been a construction worker before the war. "We actually did it," he said. "We captured an alien ship." "Yeah." "Do you think it matters? I mean, really matters?" Maya thought about it. She thought about the war and the odds, and the fleet of 10,000 ships that still wanted to destroy everything she loved. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not. Maybe we still lose. Maybe everyone dies." "Then why did we do it?" Maya smiled. It hurt. She might have a cut on her lip, but she smiled anyway. "Because we're human. Because when someone tells us we can't do something, we do it anyway. Because giving up means letting them win, and I'm too stubborn to let them win." Jackson laughed. It was a tired laugh, the laugh of a man who had seen too much death. But it was still a laugh. "Humanity, fuck yeah," he said. "Yeah," Maya agreed. "Something like that." Outside, the battle continued. Ships burned. People died. The universe held its breath. But humanity kept fighting. Humanity kept laughing. And somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, other species were watching. Conquered species. Broken species. Species that had surrendered and spent centuries under Vethrani rule. They watched the humans fight. They watched the humans laugh. They watched the humans refuse to die quietly, and some of them began to remember what hope felt like. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Sol began. High Arbiter Keth Vorin stood in his command center and stared at the holographic display of the solar system. Red dots marked destroyed human positions. Blue dots marked destroyed Vethrani ships. There were far too many blue dots. "Current status," he ordered. His aide, a young Vethrani named Talrek, consulted his datapad. "We have secured the outer system. Mars colony has been neutralized. The Jupiter stations have been destroyed. However, Earth and its orbital defenses remain intact." "And our losses?" Talrek hesitated. 487 ships, High Arbiter. Approximately 22,000 crew members. 487 ships. In 3 weeks. Against a species that had been in space for only 300 years. This is not possible, Kethovoran said quietly. This is not how conquest works. The humans continue to employ unconventional tactics, Dornveth explained. They refuse to engage in direct combat. They strike and disappear. They sacrifice themselves to destroy single ships. They have turned every moon and asteroid into a potential weapon. Then we will destroy every moon and asteroid. We have tried, High Arbiter. But the humans have adapted. They now use mobile platforms that look like debris. They hide among civilian ships, forcing us to scan each vessel individually. They send false signals to confuse our sensors. For every tactic we counter, they invent 2 new ones. Kethovoran slammed his fist against the console. They are primitives. They should be groveling before us, begging for mercy. Why do they keep fighting? No one answered. No one had an answer. On Earth, Dr. Yusuf Okonkwo had finally finished his analysis of the Vethrani database. He called an emergency meeting with military command. Admiral Chen attended via video link from the Defiant. I have been studying the Dominion structure, Yusuf began, and I have found something important, something that could change everything. He displayed a chart showing the Dominion's organization. At the top were the Vethrani, the ruling species. Below them were hundreds of other species, arranged in a strict hierarchy. The Dominion is not an empire of equals, Yusuf explained. It is a pyramid of subjugation. The Vethrani rule. Everyone else serves. The conquered species are ranked by how useful they are, and they are kept in line through fear and strict control. We knew that already, Admiral Chen said. How does it help us? Because the system is fragile. Yusuf pointed to the lower levels of the pyramid. These species did not join the Dominion willingly. They were conquered. Like the Vethrani want to conquer us. They obey because they have no choice. But they remember what freedom felt like, and some of them still want it. A general from the United Earth Defense Force leaned forward. Are you suggesting we try to start a rebellion? Not directly. We do not have that power. But think about what we have already done. We have resisted the Vethrani for 3 weeks. We have destroyed nearly 500 of their ships. Every species in the Dominion is watching this war. They are seeing that the mighty Vethrani can be hurt. Yusuf switched to a new display showing intercepted communications from the Dominion. I have been monitoring their internal traffic. There are already signs of trouble. Supply convoys from subject species are being delayed. Military forces from conquered worlds are slow to respond to orders. Nothing open, nothing that could be called rebellion. But the cracks are forming. Admiral Chen's eyes lit up with understanding. You want us to push harder, make the cracks bigger. Yes, but not just by fighting, by communicating. Yusuf took a deep breath. I want to broadcast a message, not to the Vethrani, to everyone else. To every conquered species in the Dominion. I want to tell them what we have done. I want to tell them that resistance is possible. The Vethrani will block any transmission, someone objected. Not if we use their own network against them. I have found ways to inject messages into their communication relays. They will not be able to stop it without shutting down their entire system. The room was silent. Then Admiral Chen smiled. Do it, she said. Tell them our story. Tell them we stand. The message went out 3 days later. It was broadcast in every language the translation system could produce. It showed footage of human ships fighting the Vethrani fleet. It showed the captured cruiser. It showed Maya Santos and her team boarding an enemy vessel. And then it showed a simple statement in text that filled the screen. We stand, so can you. The message spread through the Dominion like a virus. The Vethrani tried to block it, but it kept appearing. On military channels, on civilian networks, on encrypted frequencies, everywhere. High Arbiter. Kethovoran watched the message play on his screen and felt something he had not felt in 400 years, genuine fear. How did they do this? He demanded. How did they access our networks? We do not know, High Arbiter. Their methods are unlike anything we have seen before. They appear to have reverse-engineered our communication protocols from the data we sent them. The data we sent as a demonstration of our power. Yes, High Arbiter. Kethovorin closed his eyes. They had given the humans the tools to undermine them. They had handed their enemies a weapon. Within days, the effects of the broadcast became clear. 3 subject species in the Dominion's outer territories reported administrative delays in their tribute shipments. A 4th species requested clarification on military deployment orders, a subtle way of saying they would not obey without being directly forced. It was not rebellion, not yet, but it was the beginning of something. On the battlefield, Admiral Chen launched Operation Prometheus. For 3 weeks, human engineers had been working on the captured Vethrani ships. They had studied the alien technology. They had learned its secrets, and now they were going to use those secrets in a way no one expected. The Vethrani fold drive was a device that allowed ships to travel faster than light. Humanity had never been able to build one. Their technology was too primitive, but they did not need to build one. They had captured 5 ships with working fold drives. At 0400 Earth Standard Time, 5 human ships vanished from the solar system. High Arbiter Kethovorin received the report with disbelief. They have fold drive capability? How? They used the drives from the ships they captured, High Arbiter. They modified their own vessels to interface with our technology. Where did they go? We are tracking their signatures. They appear to be heading for the 7th supply point. Kethovorin went pale. The 7th supply point was a major logistics hub located 3 light-years from Earth. It was where the invasion fleet received its fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts. It was supposed to be completely safe, far behind the battle lines. "Recall the defense force," he ordered. "Now!" But it was too late. By the time the message reached the 7th supply point, the human ships had already arrived. Captain Yuki Sato commanded the lead ship, a modified destroyer called the Rising Sun. She had volunteered for this mission knowing it was almost certainly one way. The fold drive was not designed for human ships. It might fail at any moment, and even if it worked, they would be deep in enemy territory with no hope of rescue. None of that mattered. What mattered was the supply depot ahead of her. "All ships, this is Captain Sato. We have one objective. Destroy as much as possible before they stop us. Fire at will." The supply depot was enormous. Hundreds of cargo containers, dozens of tankers, repair facilities, ammunition stores, all of it protected by a small defense force that was completely unprepared for an attack. The Rising Sun and its 4 companions tore through the depot like wolves in a sheep pen. They destroyed fuel tankers, ammunition stores, repair drones. They caused explosions that could be seen from light seconds away. They turned the supply point into a field of fire and debris. Sato lost 2 ships in the attack, 60 people. But when the defense force finally arrived, the damage was done. Half the supply depot was destroyed. The other half was burning. The Rising Sun and its 2 surviving companions jumped back towards Seoul. They would run out of fuel before they got there. They knew that, but they had done what they came to do. On the Defiant, Admiral Chen received the report with tears in her eyes. "Casualties? 2 ships lost, Admiral. The Rising Sun and the others are returning, but they will not have enough fuel to complete the journey. Send rescue ships. I do not care how far we have to go. Bring them home." "Yes, Admiral." Chen looked at the tactical display. The Vethrani fleet was still huge, still powerful, but for the first time, it was hurting. Maya Santos was still on the front lines. Her capture of the alien cruiser had made her famous. People called her the Ship Taker. She hated the nickname, but she could not deny it had helped morale. She was now a sergeant, commanding a platoon of 50 soldiers. They specialized in boarding operations. In 3 weeks, they had captured 2 more enemy ships and disabled 4 others. Her grandmother called her every night. "I saw you on the news," Rosa said. "You look tired." "I am tired, Grandma. We all are. But you are still fighting." "Yes, we are still fighting." Rosa smiled. Even through the video screen, Maya could see the pride in her eyes. "The whole world is watching you, my little warrior. The whole galaxy is watching. Do you know what that means? It means a lot of pressure. It means you have become more than just a soldier. You have become a symbol. When people see you, they see hope. They see proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things." Maya felt uncomfortable. She did not want to be a symbol. She just wanted to survive. She wanted the war to end. She wanted to go home and open that restaurant she had dreamed about. But she understood what her grandmother meant. This war was not just about winning or losing. It was about showing the universe that humans would not surrender, that even the smallest, weakest species could stand against tyranny. "I will try to be worthy of it," she said quietly. "You already are." High Arbiter Keth Voren received a summons from the Dominion High Council. He knew what it meant. They wanted to know why the conquest of a primitive species was taking so long. They wanted to know why hundreds of ships had been destroyed. They wanted to know why subject races were becoming restless. He had no good answers. "The humans are not like other species," he reported via long-range communication. "They do not respond to superior force with surrender. They respond with greater resistance. Every victory we achieve makes them fight harder." The High Council was not satisfied. "You were given the largest invasion fleet in Dominion history," the council speaker said. "You have failed to achieve victory in 3 weeks. This is unprecedented. I request reinforcements." "Reinforcements? You have 10,000 ships. And I have lost 500 of them. The humans are using tactics we have never encountered. They board our ships. They use suicide attacks. They turn our own technology against us. I need more forces to overwhelm them." The council conferred among themselves. Finally, the speaker responded. "Reinforcements will be sent. But understand this, High Arbiter, failure is not an option. If you cannot conquer these humans, the consequences will be severe, not just for you, but for the stability of the entire Dominion. Other species are watching. They are asking questions. They are wondering if the Vethrani are truly invincible." "I understand. Then end this. Quickly." The communication ended. Keth Voren sat alone in his command center for a long time. He thought about his career, his victories, the 53 species he had conquered. None of them had fought like this. None of them had laughed in the face of destruction. None of them had made him doubt himself. What were these humans? Where did they find this insane courage? He did not know. But he knew one thing. He was beginning to fear the answer. On Earth, the people celebrated the destruction of the supply depot. It was a small victory in a long war, but it mattered. It proved that humanity could strike back, that they were not just defending, they were attacking. President Okonkwo addressed the world. "Today, we showed the Vethrani that distance will not protect them. We showed them that we can reach into their territory and hurt them. This war is not over. We may still lose, but we will not lose quietly. We will not lose without making them remember us for 1,000 years." The speech was broadcast across the solar system, and through Dr. Yusuf's hacked communication networks, it was broadcast across the galaxy. On a dozen worlds, conquered species heard the human leader's words. They saw the footage of burning supply depots. They heard about the ships that had crossed light years to strike the Dominion. And some of them, not many but some, began to think, if the humans can do it, maybe we can too. The tide was turning, slowly, painfully. but it was turning. Admiral Chen looked at her fleet, now reduced to just over 200 ships, and made a decision. "We cannot win by defense alone," she told her captains. "We have to keep hitting them, keep making them bleed. Keep showing the galaxy that resistance is possible." "We are running out of ships, Admiral," Captain Mendez pointed out. "I know. So we will have to be smarter, faster, more unpredictable." Chen's eyes were hard. "The Vethrani have ruled by fear for 40,000 years. We are going to teach them what fear really means." The war continued. More people died, more ships burned, but humanity kept fighting. And across the galaxy, the seeds of rebellion began to grow. 2 months after the first transmission, the Vethrani Dominion began to crack. It started small. A supply convoy from the Morveth system arrived 3 days late. A garrison on Kelos Prime requested additional time to prepare their troops. The 7th Fleet, stationed in the outer territories, reported technical difficulties with their fold drives. These were not rebellions. They were excuses. But to High Arbiter Kethovorin, they were symptoms of something far more dangerous. "The subject races are losing faith," Dornveth reported. "They see our losses in the Sol system. They hear the human broadcasts. They are beginning to question whether we can be defeated." "Can we?" The question hung in the air. Dornveth, who had served the Dominion for 300 years, who had helped conquer dozens of species, did not answer. That silence was answer enough. The war had become a disaster. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into the bloodiest campaign in Dominion history. 863 ships destroyed. Over 40,000 Vethrani dead. And still, the humans fought on. Every tactic the Dominion tried, the humans countered. When the Vethrani concentrated their forces, human raiders attacked their supply lines. When the Vethrani spread out to protect their logistics, human strike teams targeted isolated ships. When the Vethrani tried to simply bombard Earth from orbit, human missile platforms emerged from hidden positions and forced them back. The humans should not have been able to do this. Their technology was primitive. Their numbers were small. Their fleet was a fraction of the Dominion's strength. But they refused to die. On Earth, the situation was desperate but not hopeless. The human fleet had been reduced to 137 ships. Over half the population of Mars was dead. The colonies on Jupiter's moons were gone. Millions of people had died in the fighting. But Earth still stood, and humanity still fought. Admiral Chen sat in her command chair on the Defiant and looked at the faces of her crew. They were tired. They were grief-stricken. Many of them had lost friends and family in the past 2 months, but their eyes were still determined. "Status report," she ordered. "Enemy fleet has pulled back to the orbit of Mars, Admiral. They are regrouping. Intelligence suggests they are waiting for reinforcements." "How many reinforcements?" "Unknown, but estimates suggest at least 2,000 additional ships." Chen nodded. 2,000 more ships. Added to the 9,000 they still had, against her 137. The mathematics were impossible. They had always been impossible. "And morale?" she asked. Her first officer smiled slightly. "Hi, Admiral. The crew knows the odds. They don't care. They say if we're going to die, we might as well die with the best kill ratio in history." Chen laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. "Tell them I appreciate the optimism." Across the solar system, Maya Santos was preparing for what she believed would be her last mission. Her platoon had been assigned to defend Europa Station, one of the last human outposts in the outer system. The Vethrani were coming to destroy it. Everyone knew the station could not be held. But that was not the point. The point was to make the enemy pay for every meter. Maya gathered her soldiers in the station's main hangar. 53 people. Some were veterans who had fought since the beginning. Others were civilians who had picked up weapons only weeks ago. All of them were willing to die. "I'm not going to lie to you," she said. This station will fall. We don't have enough ships, enough weapons, or enough people to stop the Vethrani fleet. Most of us, probably all of us, will die here." She paused. The soldiers watched her with steady eyes. "But here's what I know. Every hour we hold this station is an hour Earth has to prepare. Every ship we destroy is a ship that won't attack our home. Every enemy soldier we kill is one less soldier they have to conquer us with." Maya raised her rifle. "We are the line. We don't retreat. We don't surrender. We hold until we can't hold anymore, and then we make them remember what it cost to take this station from us." Someone in the back started clapping, then someone else. Within seconds, the entire hangar was filled with applause and cheering. "Humanity! Fuck yeah!" someone shouted. Maya smiled. "Humanity! Fuck yeah! Let's show these aliens what happens when they mess with the wrong species." The battle for Europa Station began 6 hours later. The Vethrani sent 300 ships, more than enough to obliterate the small station and its handful of defenders. Commander Velthar, a veteran of 50 conquests, expected the operation to take less than an hour. It took 3 days. The humans had turned the station into a fortress. Every corridor was trapped. Every room was defended. When the Vethrani breached the outer walls, they found humans waiting with guns and grenades. When they cleared the first level, they found the second level rigged to explode. When they brought in heavy weapons, the humans fell back to the next position and started all over again. Maya led her platoon through the nightmare. They fought in darkness and in fire. They fought when their ammunition ran low and they had to use knives. They fought when they were wounded and exhausted and wanted nothing more than to rest. On the third day, there were only 7 of them left: Maya, Jackson, and 5 others. They had fallen back to the station's reactor core, the last defensible position. The Vethrani commander sent a message. "Surrender now, and you will be spared. Continue fighting, and you will die." Maya looked at her soldiers. They were covered in blood and dust. Their weapons were almost empty. They had nothing left, except their defiance. "Tell your commander something for me," Maya said into the communication channel. "Tell him that every human he kills creates 10 more who hate him. Tell him that even if he destroys this station, he will never destroy what it represents. Tell him that humanity will remember Europa, and we will never forgive." She cut the channel. "Rig the reactor," she ordered. "If we're going to die, we're taking as many of them with us as we can." The explosion lit up the dark side of Jupiter's moon like a second sun. News of Europa Station reached Earth within hours. The world mourned. 63 people had died defending a station that could not be defended. It was a tragedy. But it was also a victory. The battle for Europa had cost the Vethrani 27 ships and over 3,000 soldiers. They had taken 3 days to defeat 53 humans, and in the end, the humans had chosen to destroy the station rather than let it be captured. High Arbiter Keth Voran read the reports and felt something break inside him. "These creatures would rather die than submit," he said. "They do not just accept death. They embrace it as a weapon. How do you conquer something like that?" Dornveth had no answer. The next day, Keth Voran received a message from the Dominion High Council. 3 subject species had declared open rebellion. The Morveth, the Colossians, and the Talvari had all refused to send further tribute or troops to the Dominion. They cited the human resistance as proof that the Vethrani were not invincible. The cracks had become fractures. "You must end this war," the council speaker commanded. "Now, before it destroys everything." "How?" "The humans will not surrender. Every attack we make costs us more than it costs them. They have turned defeat into a weapon. Then do not demand surrender. Offer peace." Keth Voran was stunned. Peace? The Dominion does not make peace with primitives. We conquer or we destroy. The Dominion does what is necessary for survival, the speaker replied coldly. If conquering these humans costs us our empire, then we do not conquer them. Offer them terms. End this war. Save what can be saved. The communication ended. Keth Voran sat alone in his command center for a long time. 400 years of victories, 53 species conquered. And now he was being ordered to accept defeat at the hands of creatures who had been in space for less than 3 centuries. He thought about the human he had spoken to at the beginning. The woman admiral with the calm smile. She had known from the start that she could not win. But she had fought anyway. She had laughed at him. Now he understood why. The message arrived on the Defiant at 1400 hours. Admiral Chen read it twice before she believed it. The Vethrani are offering a ceasefire, she announced to her bridge crew. They want to negotiate. The bridge erupted in cheers. Officers who had not smiled in weeks were suddenly hugging each other. Someone was crying. Someone else was laughing. Chen held up her hand for silence. This is not victory, she said. Not yet. They are offering to talk, not to leave. We need to be careful. We need to be smart. We need to make sure that whatever deal we make protects humanity forever. She looked at the message again. But yes, she admitted, this is good news. This is very good news. The negotiations lasted a week. Admiral Chen led the human delegation. High Arbiter Keth Voran led the Vethrani. They met on a neutral station in the asteroid belt, surrounded by ships from both sides. The discussions were tense. The Vethrani wanted to save face. They wanted to present the ceasefire as a mutual agreement rather than an admission of defeat. The humans wanted guarantees. They wanted recognition. They wanted to make sure this never happened again. In the end, they reached an agreement. The Vethrani would recognize human sovereignty over the Sol system. They would release all human prisoners. They would not attack human ships or colonies. In exchange, humanity would not actively encourage rebellion among subject species. Admiral Chen added one final condition. We want open communication channels with every species in the Dominion, trade, diplomacy, cultural exchange. If other species want to talk to us, you will not stop them. Keth Voran hesitated. He knew what this meant. Human ideas would spread. Human defiance would inspire others. The rebellion that had already begun would only grow. But he had no choice. If he refused, the war would continue. And the war was destroying his empire faster than peace ever could. Agreed, he said. The ceasefire was signed. The war was over. 6 months later, a memorial was built on Earth. It stood in Geneva, near the building where the United Earth Council had made their fateful decision. It was a simple wall of black stone reaching toward the sky. On the wall were carved the names of everyone who had died in the war. There were many names. Maya Santos stood before the wall on the day it was dedicated. She was one of the few survivors of Europa Station. Jackson had pushed her into an escape pod moments before the reactor exploded. He had stayed behind to make sure the explosion happened. His name was on the wall. So were the names of her other friends, her teammates, the people who had fought beside her. She traced the letters with her fingers and felt tears on her cheeks. A reporter approached her. Sergeant Santos, I was hoping to ask you a few questions. Maya wiped her eyes. Go ahead. What do you think humanity proved in this war? Maya considered the question. She thought about the battles, the deaths, the impossible odds. She thought about her grandmother's words about fear being a compass. She thought about the laughter that had carried humanity through the darkness. We proved that you can't calculate the human spirit, she said finally. The Vethrani had the numbers. They had the firepower. They had thousands of years of experience, but they forgot one thing. What was that? Maya smiled. It was a tired smile, a sad smile. But it was unbroken. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. The reporter nodded and made notes. Then she asked one more question. Do you think it was worth it? All the death? All the suffering? Maya looked at the wall, at the names, at the price humanity had paid for freedom. "Ask me in 100 years," she said, "when human children are growing up in a free solar system, when other species are throwing off the dominion because we showed them it was possible, when the galaxy is different because we refused to kneel." She turned to face the reporter. "Then ask me if it was worth it. I think I know what the answer will be." Across the galaxy, the effects of the human resistance continued to spread. The 3 rebellious species had been joined by 5 more. The Dominion was fracturing. Some analysts predicted it would collapse entirely within a century, and everywhere, other species whispered about the humans. The crazy species that had laughed at their conquerors, the stubborn creatures who had chosen death over slavery, the small, fragile beings who had shaken an empire. A new phrase entered the galactic vocabulary. It was a human phrase, borrowed from their broadcasts during the war. Other species did not fully understand its meaning, but they understood its spirit. Against all odds, it became a greeting, a battle cry, a prayer. When rebels met in secret, they said it to each other. When slaves dreamed of freedom, they whispered it in the dark. When anyone, anywhere faced impossible obstacles, they remembered the humans, against all odds. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the laughter echoed still. Defiant. Unbroken. Human. President Okonkwo gave one final speech after the memorial dedication. "We did not start this war," he said. "We did not want it. But when it came, we faced it as humans have always faced adversity. With courage, with creativity, and yes, with laughter. Because that is who we are. We are the species that climbs mountains because they are there, that sails oceans to find new lands, that reaches for the stars because we cannot bear to stay on the ground." He looked out at the crowd, humans from every nation, every colony, every corner of human space. The Vithrani thought we were primitives. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong, and now the whole galaxy knows they were wrong. We have earned our place among the stars, not through submission but through defiance, not through fear, but through hope. He raised his hand. "To those we lost, we will never forget you. To those who survived, we are proud of you. And to the future generations who will inherit what we have built, remember this moment. Remember what we did. And never ever let anyone tell you that humans cannot achieve the impossible." The crowd cheered. Above them, the stars shone bright. Humanity had faced extinction and answered with laughter. They had faced an empire and taught it fear. They had faced the darkness and found light. This was their legacy. This was their gift to the future. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The war was over. But the story of humanity was just beginning.